everybody, and welcome to the Reading Habits Tag, the video where we finally figure out, where do I read? When do I read? Do I believe in bookmarks? No. We all know what a tag is, so let's just jump right on in. Number 1, do you have a certain place at home for reading? No. Ideally it was this chair. I think I bought this chair as kind of a reading chair. That is not what it is. It is an everything chair. I don't do that much reading at this chair. Honestly, most of my reading happens in bed. I just am happy and comfortable in bed. I do some reading here. I do some reading at my desk, but for the most part, I just end up laying in bed reading my book. That's where I am most happy. Question number 2, bookmark or random piece of paper? So I love this question because I think it shows, it just really divulges what kind of a reader you are. I'm a disaster when it comes to bookmarks. So I was recently talking to my friend Raylene about this on a special episode that we make for our podcast. Link to the podcast down below. I love this book podcast. It is so much fun. Go check it out, please, if you haven't. But basically, I was asking her, like, do you use a bookmark? What do you use? And she uses beautiful bookmarks. She keeps them in a special case, like, as her bookmark, like, I think a pencil case kind of thing. And I, on the other hand, am chaotic. Sometimes I don't use one. I just try and remember the page number. Sometimes I will, this is new, but I literally dog-eared the page so I'd remember where I was. I'm a monster. Sometimes I use a bookmark if there happens to be one laying around that I see. I use receipts. I use random pieces of paper. I will, like, if it's a hardcover, I will do that thing where you, like, use this flap to kind of just put that in there and hope for the best. I will do whatever. I will leave the book kind of open on a table. Oh my god, I can't believe I'm revealing these things about myself. I'll lay it down. Most of the time, I just kind of know where I was. I'll be like, I was around the halfway point, and I'll just flip until I see something that I recognize. I'm like, oh yeah, I'm around here. And then I'll read a paragraph and I'll be like, I already read that. And I'll try and find where I actually was. I have 2 bookmarks that I have been favoring lately, and they are this red and white one that I just love the feel of, and then these Sailor Moon ones, which I just really like and I've had since I was little. My favorite Sailor Scout is Sailor Mercury, and I had a Mercury bookmark, which was like my favorite bookmark, and I can't find it, and I think that it was in a book that I donated, which is a nightmare I will never live down. Number 3, this is why I need a special pencil case full of my bookmarks so that this doesn't happen again. Number 3, can you just stop reading, or do you have to stop after a chapter or a certain amount of pages? For me, I will stop pretty much anywhere. I used to very much be like, I want to read to the end of the chapter. And if I can, I still do that. So I'll be like, oh, I'm so close to the chapter, I'll read another 2 pages. But for the most part, if I get tired, I'm like, all right, that was fun. And I close the book and I put it down. I always finish the sentence or the paragraph, obviously. Or if there's a page break on that spread of pages, I will make it to the page break. I'm not a lunatic, but for the most part, I just stop reading and I'll like finish my sentence. I'm like, okay, I will recap tomorrow. I definitely don't have a certain amount of pages that I have to read because my reading is kind of sporadic. So I never am like, I have to get through at least 20 pages or I don't feel like I read. No, I'll just read what I can. Next question. Do you eat or drink while reading? No. I don't really understand that lifestyle. Like, it feels very much, it's chaotic to me because how do you, like, for me, holding a book is a 2-handed affair, okay? Usually the anchor hand, my left hand is holding the book, the right hand is just balancing, ready to flip the page. Sometimes it's helping in the propping, depending on what position I'm in. But I really can't also be eating something because most things that you eat leave residue in your hands. Do you know what I mean? Like, especially if it's just a snack food that you're eating while reading, like chips or something. And then you're like greasy and you're gonna flip your book. Like, I'm a crazy person, but I'm not a horrible person who's making my books greasy. So I really can't eat. I also find it impossible to balance. If it's like I have a bowl of something and I'm trying to read with one hand and eat with the other, that's too much. That's too much for me. And then drinking is very similar. If you think about, like I said, I mainly read from my bed. I don't have a night table because I don't have room for one in my room. So if I ever have a mug of like a tea, it's on the ground next to me. And so I'll be reading and I'll be like, okay, I want to sip. So I gotta like put my bookmark or whatever in, then reach down, pull up the mug, take a sip, put it back. It's so disruptive to the process that I don't need to drink tea while I'm reading. It just doesn't feel like a priority to me. Maybe one day when I own my own house and I have like a living room where I read a lot, I would love to like have a tea on my coffee table. That sounds like a very nice setup. But just my current space doesn't really allow for that. Okay, this next one, crazy times. Number 5, do you listen to music or watch TV while reading? The music one I kind of get. I know that some people like to put music on in the background, especially like soundtracks, but the TV thing I don't understand. That's crazy. The music thing I don't do. I can't do it. I find myself so distracted. First of all, if I am going to do it, it cannot have lyrics. I really love lyrics in music, and I find myself thinking about them when I listen to music. So I can't be reading and listening to lyrics. It's two types of reading, and then it just doesn't work. It just doesn't work. But then even when I have just a soundtrack on, I get distracted by the music and I like start to think about the melody, or I start to think about the movie that music is from. Oh, this is what happens when Harry's having, or like Ron's eating that chicken. This is the music that plays or whatever. And so I can't do it. I can't listen to music while I read. The TV thing, the only reason that I would be watching TV and reading is because I'm with someone, like my boyfriend or my brother, and they're watching TV and I don't care about the show. So I'm just kind of hanging out in the same room, but what I'm doing is reading. So I can understand that the TV is on or around me, but I'm not watching it. But I have heard of people who can like watch TV and read. They're kind of like reading, casually watching the show. That's high level stuff that I am not able to do. The next question, one book at a time or several at once? I feel like I sort of need to make an entire video about this because I am the kind of person who reads many books at once. I don't think I want to be this kind of person, but it just is who I am. I am who I am. When I start reading a book, most of the time, my plan is to just read that book until I finish it. But I am such a mood reader. I get easily distracted by new books or by different books for whatever reason, and I will pick up another book even though I haven't finished that other one, and I will start reading this next one, and the next thing I know, I'm in the middle of 5 different books. I think that the majority of this happens early on in a book. Like, there's a lot of books where I'm in like the first 50 pages and it was more like I couldn't really find the right book, and then finally I did find the right book and then I finished that, and now I go back to trying to figure out which one of these other ones I should finish. But that's not always the case. Sometimes I'm like halfway through a bunch of different books. It's not evenly spread. It's not like I read 10 pages, 10 pages, 10 pages, 10 pages, 50 pages, 50 pages, 50 pages, 50 pages. It'll be like 10 pages, 20 pages, read a whole book. Read another 30 pages, read another 50 pages, finish a whole book. So like it's not evenly spread, if that makes sense. The next question, reading at home or everywhere? So I work from home. This bedroom is my life. I live here, I work here, I often eat here. Most of my time is here. And so I just mainly read here. I read on my bed, I read in this chair, and I read at my desk. And it's all in this one room. I don't go out that often. It's fine. I don't really want to. I don't go out that often. And if I do go out, it is for a purpose. If I'm going out, it's because I need to get something, or I need to go somewhere, like to the doctor, or I need to go to the grocery store, or I need to go to, I was about to say the bank, but I haven't been to the bank in like 2 years. Online banking. Or, you know, like going out to dinner with someone or to a movie. I'm going to an activity. I'm not going somewhere where I would read. I don't commute anywhere, so I don't read on my commute. I don't like have time during my day where I could just go out to get a coffee. Like the nearest cafe to me is like a 17-minute drive away. So while I could do that, and I probably should, arguably, and a conversation for another day, I probably should go out a bit more than I do. I don't. And yeah, if I were to go out to like a cafe, I would go out to just have a new setting where I could do more work. So I always read at home. But I should say, strong asterisk here, that doesn't stop me from carrying a book everywhere I go. I still have the habit of having a book in my bag no matter what, even though I never read while I'm out. Next question, reading out loud or silently in your head? So this is a fun question. Definitely silently in my head most of the time. I would say 95% of the time, probably higher, honestly, 98% of the time, I am reading just silently in my head. However, there are some exceptions. Never when I'm reading by myself do I read out loud, but sometimes I read with my boyfriend, and so we will read short stories out loud to one another. But there have been a couple of circumstances, and let me find it. This was one of those circumstances. I was reading God Bless You, Mr. Rosewater in kind of a reading emergency. These things happen to me. You'd think that there's no such thing as a reading emergency, but I have had several reading emergencies where I suddenly had to read a book in like a night, and I had to do that with this because I was recording a podcast episode about it with A.S. King coming out on the podcast soon. But yeah, I was doing that, and I needed to finish this book, and I had so much work that week that I had only been able to start this the night before, and I ended up reading, I think, 80% of this book out loud to my boyfriend. So I had started it in my mind, silently reading, and I probably got to page like 80 or something, and then after that, I read the entire book out loud to my boyfriend, and it was really fun. He was just playing video games, and I was just reading, and we were laughing, and it was a great time. So I do believe in reading out loud when the moment is right, but for the majority, I read to myself. Question number 9. Do you read ahead or even skip pages? Okay, this is really cute because I do that. Patience. Is patience one of my virtues? Probably not. I mean, it could be improved. So I will sometimes be very stressed out while I'm reading a book, and I just need to know what's coming because I'm very like anxious, and I feel anxious. I'm like reading the book and I'm not really having fun because I'm so worried about what's going to happen. So I will often be reading a book and I will just let my eyes skim ahead, especially with dialogue. Dialogue really helps this. Anyone else who does this with me knows how helpful dialogue is, because I will like skim ahead and the person will say like, I still love you. And I'm like, okay, thank God. And then I can read it calmly and be happy and enjoy the process. I've talked about this before, I think, on my channel, where like I usually enjoy watching a movie more the second time than I did the first time, because the first time is very anxiety producing because I don't know if it's going to end the way I want it to. I don't know if the characters are going to be okay. I don't know what's going to happen, and that causes me stress. Whereas the second time I see a movie, I'm like in it for the ride. I'm like the kind of person who can watch a movie 8 times and have a great time. So I can like really enjoy it, but not be stressed. So similarly with a book, I will sometimes skim ahead. Skip pages. I don't really do that. Sometimes like if I'm just trying to skim ahead, and I will flip a page or two to just kind of skim. But I don't like skip pages as in I want the book to finish and I think these pages look boring, so I just skip them. No, I always go back and read it. I just skip ahead to make sure everything is gonna work out. I'm the kind of person who reads every single word in a book. I read the title page, the second title page, I read the prologue and acknowledgments, and I literally read, like, if a book has chapters, you know, like a glossary or a table of contents, I will read that. Like, I just feel like you're supposed to read every word in the book, so I don't like skipping stuff. There are obviously exceptions. I'm not going to say I've never skipped sections in a book in my life, because I have. Some books are boring and deserve to be skipped. Okay, next question is breaking the spine or keeping it like new? Whew. Okay. I break the spine. I'm fine with breaking the spine. I just don't see a problem with it. I'm trying to find a book. Here's one. Actually, I didn't break the spine. Where did I get this book? I got it in like a tiny library, I think. So I didn't buy this. But regardless, this one has a broken spine. So that was a terrible example because I didn't break that spine. There's two things I want to say about this. Number one is that I don't think it's that big of a deal. I don't see why people are all up in arms about it. I don't think that the point of a book is to read the book. It's to enjoy the process of reading the book. And so if you're literally like holding it open, not all the way, just so that you don't break the spine and you're suddenly having to do maneuver moves and able to like read it, I'm like, just buy a second copy. Like, just no, live your dreams, live your life to the fullest. We only get this one life. We need to break the spine. But the second thing is, I don't think books look that bad when the spine is broken. Like, everyone's acting like, you can't break the spine, it makes it look terrible. I don't think it looks that bad. Like, there are a couple of books where, yes, it looks really bad because it will break in like 4 different places and it kind of now just looks sort of strange. But I know that I've broken the spine on so many of these, but I can't even find one because you can barely tell. I don't really see how it's a big problem. I even made a whole poem about it. I'm going to link you to that poem because I made a whole poem about how you should break the spine. The final question is, do you write in your books? And yes, I do. I write in my books. I made a whole video about this too. Link that one down below as well. Why not? I do write in my books. Similar to the breaking the spine thing, I really feel that your books are your books. They're not just objects for like a collection. This is my philosophy. I know that there are so many different types of book buyers out there, and we should all just live our dreams and spend our money in the way that we want. This is just me. I feel that we should just use our books in the ways that make us happy. And if that includes writing in them, drawing in them, breaking the spine, etc., then do that. I don't think that it's particularly important for me to keep my books in pristine condition, because these books ultimately are for me. They're for my family and maybe for my descendants, should I happen to have any. Not convinced quite yet. Every book here is in a library somewhere. It's in a collection. It's in the archives. You know, if you publish a book in Canada, 2 copies of your book go to the National Archives in Ottawa. So no matter what, there is 2 copies of every Canadian book in an archive, safe and sound. I am not protecting these books to be a museum. Like, these are not the books that people 1,000 years from now are going to be looking back on. No, these are for me. These are my objects. They're my tools. They're my, they're just for me to interact with and to get to know. And so I think that writing in your books and annotating them and writing notes and whatever, that adds you into the book. It creates a really strong relationship between you and the book. Whenever I'm like trying to not break the spine or whatever, which I have done if I'm borrowing a book. If I'm borrowing a book, I'm very precious with it because I know it's somebody else's book and I've got to return it in a beautiful condition. So, but whenever I'm doing that, I feel stressed and I feel a little anxious. It's just not That's fun. But I've thought about making a video all about how I annotate my books, so if you would want to see that, let me know down below. Those were all of the questions, but before we go, I'd like to thank this video's sponsor, Skillshare. Skillshare offers thousands of inspiring classes for creative and curious people on topics including illustration, design, photography, video, freelancing, and more. Members get unlimited access to thousands of inspiring classes with hands-on projects and feedback from a community of millions. It's also incredibly affordable. An annual subscription is less than $10 a month. Personally, I'm really into these writing courses. You might be too, if you're into books. They have really beautifully produced courses from amazing writers like Roxane Gay and Gail Foreman that can teach you about better writing. There's a link down below. The first 500 people get 2 months of premium membership for free. Thank you so much to Skillshare for sponsoring this video. Please let me know down below, what do you use as a bookmark? The question we all need to know. Thank you again so much for watching, and I will see you guys next week.